temperatures right now. We're expected to get up to around 90 degrees today, right?
Yes.
Right now it is, let me refresh my little thermometer here. It's 75 degrees right now. And looking forward to a couple of days of temperatures in the mid-90s. Lows each night in the upper 60s or perhaps 70 degrees. Now rain is mentioned only on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the way through Monday. So rain coming in. I would have welcomed some rain yesterday. Actually, it was kind of hot.
Oh, yeah.
So is the Earth warming up, or is it not? Are the oceans rising, or are they not? It depends on who you ask in both questions. But nevertheless, there's a story making its rounds today from the Associated Press, from the Florida News Network, from all the agencies. I don't know how these stories all end up in different agencies. I've often wondered that, by the way, how that happens. But it starts off with this statement. America's oldest city is slowly drowning. That's the city of St. Augustine.
Oh, my.
St. Augustine's centuries-old Spanish fortress and other national landmarks sit feet from the encroaching Atlantic, whose waters already flood the city's narrow, brick-paved streets about 10 times a year. Mm-hmm. A problem worsening as sea levels rise. The sea has long relied on tourism, but visitors to the fortress and Ponce de Leon's mythical fountain of youth might someday have to wear waders at high tide.
Isn't that something? Gosh.
Here's a quote from Bill Hamilton. He's a 63-year-old horticulturist whose family has lived in the city since the 1950s. He says, if you want to benefit from the fact that we've been here for 450 years, you have the responsibility to look forward to the next 450. Is St. Augustine even going to be here, he asks. He then says, we owe it to the people coming after us to leave the city in good shape. St. Augustine is one of the many chronically flooded communities along Florida's 1,200-mile coastline, and officials in these diverse places share a common concern. They are afraid that their buildings and economies will further be inundated by rising seas in just a couple of decades. The effects are a daily reality in much of the state that we live in. Drinking water wells are fouled up by seawater. Higher tides and storm surges make for more frequent road flooding from Jacksonville to Key West. And they're overburdening aging flood control systems. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, just as I'm being a little cynical here, but keep in mind that we've had flooding in Florida's coastal areas for as long as Florida has been here.
Exactly.
For different reasons. Now, is the ocean actually rising? Mm-hmm. Let's look further. The state has yet to, well, first of all, this is the whole point of the first article. The state has yet to offer a clear plan or coordination to address what local officials across Florida's coast see as a slow-moving emergency. In other words, they're complaining that the governor and the government have no plan on what to do about this rising sea level. Mm-hmm. Republican Governor Rick Scott, they say, is skeptical of man-made climate change and has put aside the task of preparing for sea level rise. That, according to an Associated Press review of thousands of emails and documents pertaining to the state's preparations for rising seas. Mm-hmm. Despite warnings from water experts and climate scientists about risks to cities and drinking water, skepticism over sea level projections and climate change science has hampered planning efforts at all levels of government, the records showed. Florida's environmental agencies under Scott have been downsized and retooled, making them less effective at coordinating sea level rise planning in the state, the document showed. Is this an article about the rising sea levels, or is this an article about their criticism of our governor?
I think the latter, because there's so much construction going on there. They have to, do all of these different tests and things in order to put those huge buildings on there, that I just think it's a criticism against the governor and that it's not really, going to happen.
Okay. Now let's look at this. How many other states border the ocean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How many other states have governors and governments that are doing something or nothing? Mm-hmm. And what is the criticisms of those other governors and governments based on their political affiliation.
Oh, there you go.
It is really clear that the people who do the news like to pick on the parties that are not their own. That's a big problem. But let's get back on track and look at the water level rising story. If I were governor, Eric Berman says, Eric Berman is the former general counsel to the Republican Party of Florida, who also served as the Water District Governing Board member. He says, if I were governor, I would be out there talking about the sea level rise every day. He says, I think he, meaning the governor, really got to grab a hold of this, set a vision, a long-term vision, and rally the people behind it. Unless you're going to build a seawall around South Florida, what's the plan, unquote. Well, we had a guest, Robin, who told us that the city of Miami has purchased, pumps to pump the water out of the streets.
Yes.
We took that man at his word, as during the course of the interview, it was kind of distracting to look something up while the man was talking. But after he was done talking, I looked it up, and he wasn't lying. They indeed did buy some water pumps, but they bought the water pumps to replace the water pumps that had been purchased earlier, like a few years ago, because of the hurricanes, not because of the rising sea levels.
Yeah, which would cause the sea levels
So
to
let's
rise.
let's go to the Ocean Service, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Okay.
Ask the question, is the sea level rising? They say it is. They say there is strong evidence that global sea level is now rising at an increased rate and will continue to rise during this century. While studies show that sea levels changed little from AD 0 until 1900, sea levels began to climb in the 20th century. The two major causes of global sea level rise are thermal expansion caused by the warming of the oceans, since water expands as it warms, and the loss of land-based ice such as glaciers and polar ice caps due to increased melting. Okay?
Okay.
Records and research show that sea levels have been steadily rising at a rate of 4/100ths of an inch to 1/10 of an inch per year since the year 1900.
Okay.
So 1/10 of an inch since 1900, 1/10 of an inch per year, let's say. It's been 115 years since 1900, right?
Right.
So that would put it at 10 inches. So the ocean has risen, right?
Yes.
Why don't they say it
Sure.
that way?
I know. It's
Why don't they
ridiculous.
say 10 inches? It's because it's hard to calculate it. This rate may be increasing since 1992. This is according to NOAA. New methods of satellite altimetry, the measurements of elevation or altitude, indicate a rate of rise at 0.12 inches per year, slightly more than 0.1.
Okay.
This is a significantly larger rate at the sea level rise as the sea levels rise averaged over the last several thousand years. If you go out in your yard right here in Ocala and you dig around, you will find some fossils. I've done
yes.
this myself.
Sure.
I found shells. And I don't mean like somebody had oysters, once.
Yeah.
I mean the little tiny things, you find
Yeah,
them. Once
exactly.
upon a time, the whole state was underwater.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
I mean, to say it's kind of weird to kind of pin it on everything we're doing, or to expect the government to have a solution for everything.
Oh, sure. That's why you have environmentalist groups. That's why you have city councils and county councils to jump ahead of this stuff and to take care of it right away. Don't wait for the feds or the state government to
All
hop
right.
in there.
So now let me read you something that indicates something from the other side. We are told that sea level is rising and soon will swamp all of our cities. Everybody knows that the Pacific island of Tuvalu is sinking. Around 1990, it became obvious that the local tide gauge did not agree. There was no evidence of sinking, so scientists at Flinders University in Adelaide set up new modern tide gauges in 12 Pacific islands.
Okay. There you go.
If the tides rise anywhere, then they rise everywhere.
Yeah, of course they do.
Recently, the whole project was abandoned as there was no sign of a change in sea level at any of the 12 islands for the past 16 years.
Gee. Gosh.
Let me continue this when we come back.
Okay,
And maybe
please.
this explains why the governor is not so worried about it.
By myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Sunshine mixing with clouds today. There can be a shower and thunderstorm around, mainly during the afternoon hours. The high 87 at the coast, 92 inland. Partly cloudy tonight, low 67 inland, 72 on the coast. Tomorrow, partly sunny and warm with a chance of a thunderstorm, high 87 to 91. On Wednesday, some sunshine with a shower or thunderstorm likely, the high 87 at the coast, 92 inland. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for car, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust-proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
Do you have areas that have started sagging or drooping? Is what you're looking at not quite the same as it was years ago? Are there enhancements you've been putting off? Is there serious damage you need fixed? Then call on us, Damage Control Services, when your roof is sagging and the drywall is drooping after a storm, or your home just needs some enhancements. From damage repairs to new construction, Damage Control Services is here to help.
Hi, I'm Leah Caruso with Strive Rehabilitation, inviting you to join me Thursday at 11 a.m. for Health Matters. Ocala Health and Strive have teamed up to bring you the latest information on good health services available to you right here at home. This vital information will help you make informed decisions about your health. So don't forget to join me here at 11 a.m. Thursday. It's news you can use from Ocala Health, Strive, and your friends here at WOCA.
Hi, I'm Seth with AA Lock, Dock, and Security. Have you ever thought about the locks or security on your house or business? Have you ever wondered why the keys to your new car cost so much? Well, at AA Lock, Dock, and Security, we can help with securing your valuables. We can even replace those expensive transponder keys. We can give you the knowledge that no one else will. Call AA Lock, Dock, and Security at 867-1965. That's 867-1965.
One of the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking, will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Cozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
All right, 12 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this morning. I am not ignoring your phone calls. I realize you're calling, but the phone line isn't working. So I can't even, it makes no point to even tell you the phone number since it's not working. We can call out.
No,
We can
yes.
call out, but we can't call you because we don't know your number.
No, you can't call us because the phone line's not working, but we can call out.
All right. Let's see. Okay, what was I reading? There was an article about the rising sea levels and the fact that the governor and the government are doing nothing in the state of Florida to prevent the erosion of the state by the rising sea levels. How much is it actually rising? They say between it's like 0.04 and 0.12 inches per year since 1900. It's 115 years. So you do the math and see if it has risen that far over that much time. Most beaches along the Atlantic and Gulf coast of the United States are eroding a few feet per year, it says here. In Florida, beach erosion has been attributed particularly to the construction and maintenance of inlets. But rising sea level is the primary reason that most shores erode. Rising global temperatures and gradually sinking land contribute to the higher water levels along the Florida shore. The sea level is rising 1 inch every 11 to 14 years. 1 inch every 11 to 14 years.
Okay.
1 inch.
Yeah.
1 inch more of water every 11 to 14 years. Let's see, I've been here some 40-something years.
Yep.
So it's risen about 4 inches higher than it was.
Yeah. That's right.
I don't see it.
No.
When I go to the ocean, I don't see that it has risen that far.
No.
Because 1 inch in depth would be a lot of land lost.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. Gavin Schmidt. Let me tell you who Gavin Schmidt is.
Please.
Gavin Schmidt is a climate scientist. Okay. He says the claim that tide gauges on islands in the Pacific Ocean show no sea level rise, and found that the data show a rising sea level trend at every single station. But what about global sea level rise? Sea level rises as ice on land melts and as warming ocean waters expand, as well as being a threat to coastal habitation and environments. Sea level rise corroborates other evidence of global warming. There's a graph that shows sea level has been rising. While the upward curve on the graph suggests sea level is rising faster as time goes on, the upward curve agrees with global temperature trends and with the accelerating melting of ice in Greenland and other places. Because sea level behavior is such an important signal, he says, for tracking climate change, skeptics seize on the sea level record in an effort to cast doubt on the evidence. Sea level bounces up and down slightly from year to year, so it's possible to cherry-pick data falsely suggesting the overall trend is flat, falling, or linear. Other skeptics argue about sea level concerning the validity of the observations obtained by the tide gauges and more recently satellite altimeter observations. Tide gauges must take into account changes in the height of land itself caused by local geologic processes.
Oh, okay. That's fascinating.
Anyway, so
gauges.
in an interview with Dr. Nils Axel Morner, head of the Paleogeophysics and Geodynamics Department at Stockholm University in Sweden, let's see. He has been studying the sea level and its effects on coastal areas for 35 years. He says in 2003, the same data set, which in their misrepresentation of sea level data was publicized, a straight line suddenly if changed and showed a very strong line of uplift, 2.3 millimeters per year, the same as from the tide gauge. So, I mean, it's interesting to look at this and to realize that it's easy to be confused. It's easy to be confused. And it's easy for somebody who has already taken sides to say, well, you're an idiot if you believe the other side, regardless of what side you're on.
Yeah, exactly.
You will see people saying, you don't know what you're talking about because here's my evidence. And then they will cite something that somebody has said. And yet, if you look at the publications, the findings of the different scientists, right, who've studied this, and you realize that they're disagreeing with each other, then you have to ask yourself this. If you don't know, how is the governor supposed to know?
Yeah, exactly.
If the governor has scientists coming to him with two sets of so-called facts that differ from one another, then how's he supposed to know? He's a governor.
Yeah.
He's not a scientist.
No.
The president will say, I'm no scientist, but I know some good scientists.
And there are also there are always different sides to an issue each side has to be studied to find out who's the best.
Well, anyway, I don't know if you live on the coast. Have you seen this? Have you been to the coast enough to actually be able to observe this?
I can't.
What I can't find is a map that shows what the coastline looked like in Florida in like 1970 or so, right? 1970?
Right.
Compared to now. You can Google it, and they're very, very, they don't really do this. Neither one of them. You would think that the one who was trying to prove that the coast, that the sea level is rising, you would think they would print a map.
Exactly.
That showed.
Now. That's right.
The differences between what is happening and what they say is happening.
Exactly. To have all the establishments and the length of the establishment to the water on each map, and then, for 40 years ago and today, they should have something visual that will substantiate their theory.
The Tampa Bay Times had published an article in 2008, and this is what it says. And this is interesting. If the water levels are rising in the ocean, why is the water level dropping in the different lakes? Global warming is boosting the sea level along Florida's Gulf Coast and already causing profound environmental changes. So here's some of the examples. At Wakasasa State Park next to Marion County in Levy County, palm trees are toppling over dead as rising salt water creeps up the beach.
Okay.
Okay, but hasn't that always happened?
It has. That's what I believe.
At Rookery Bay Preserve near Naples, saltwater mangroves have invaded what used to be freshwater marshes. On the western side of Everglades National Park, inland marshes are being replaced by seawater ponds. Professor Jack Putz from here in Florida, who has led a Levy County research effort since 1992, says people have a hard time accepting that this is happening here. He's with the University of Florida, by the way. He says, seeing the dying palm trees brings a global problem right into our own backyard. The rising sea generally has crept up so slowly that it has been barely noticeable in the Tampa Bay area, for instance. We've actually seen an increase of about an inch a decade since measurements began in the 1940s. Now the rate at which the sea level is rising appears to be picking up speed. The sea level's rise is often difficult to detect along urban coastlines because seawalls and replenished beaches can obscure or blunt the impact.
Okay.
So that explains why me, the radio guy, the novice, the guy who has no I haven't studied this at all, but just looking at it,
Right.
Consider the story of Little Salt Spring, a picturesque natural pond in Sarasota County. Archaeologists can dive into the spring and swim down 40 feet to find ancient relics like spears and mastodon teeth. The location of the artifacts shows that 10,000 years ago, Florida's sea level was much lower, 30 or 40 feet below where it is now. 10,000 years ago.
Okay, that's
10,000.
perspective.
Okay, to study past sea level fluctuations, scientists have been pulling out core samples from around the 10,000 Islands area of Everglades National Park. Using carbon dating, they can see how old the different layers are. So why do they insist when they see evidence that this has been happening for at least 10,000 years? Why do they continue to try to make us believe that it's us that's causing it?
Exactly.
If it's rising, it's rising. If you're telling me it's been rising for 10,000 years and you're blaming it on cars, then making a mistake, because if it's rising, it's rising. If the cars are causing pollution, the cars are causing pollution.
Yeah.
Tell me a problem that I can wrap my head around. There's pollution from cars. If you're going to connect the cars with the rising sea levels, then basically what you're telling me is if I stop driving my car or stop using fossil fuels, and everybody else does too, then the sea levels won't continue to rise. That's what you're trying to say. The better message, the better way to sell everybody on this whole idea of driving a more fuel-efficient car, the better way to sell it is simply to say the air will be cleaner.
Yeah.
The air will be cleaner. If the sea levels are going to rise as they have for 10,000 years, then they're going to rise. There's nothing you can do to stop it.
Right.
What you can do is you can move to higher ground, like Ocala. And eventually you might have to move out of Florida. If you look at the map that they do show that says what the world's going to look like when the oceans rise, Ocala is still here.
Yeah. Yeah, we're at a good elevation.
We're
here.
pretty good.
Yeah, we're pretty good here.
We're pretty good. It doesn't mean
the
the
capital.
aquifer will be any good. The aquifer
Right.
might be all salted up, and
Exactly.
we might not be able to actually live here. But I just think the conclusion is this: if you're going to say that the governor has done nothing at all to protect the land, then you're missing all those grants that were given out for those pumps. I don't know what else you want them to do.
Exactly.
And if you're going to try to convince the rest of us to change our lifestyles, then how come you're showing us that 10,000 years of oceans rising is the fact, rather than just saying, look, if you drive a cleaner car, you're going to have a cleaner world,
That's right.
and we'll worry about the seas rising and not blame it on ourselves. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. Severe storms leaving many areas in shambles this morning. In Van, Texas, about 24 people injured, 10 missing.
There are at least a dozen homes completely destroyed, maybe 100 plus homes sustaining some kind of damage. There are maybe 50 or 60 people in a shelter right now, while officials are still, now that we have daylight, assessing the damage.
Dan Godwin of Fox affiliate KDFW. In Nashville, Arkansas, 2 people killed when a tornado ripped through their mobile homes. A memorial service today in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, for 2 police officers gunned down Saturday night. Mayor Johnny Dupree.
This has absolutely nothing to do with New York or Carolinas or Baltimore, any of those things. These are bad people doing bad things.
4 people, 2 facing murder charges in court today. Officials say thousands of migrants abandoned at sea by smugglers in Southeast Asia remain trapped in crowded ships. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Flo from Progressive here on a road trip with Bob, who owns a dry cleaning service.
Well, it's not really a road trip. We're only going a mile.
In a mile, you can save money on your commercial auto insurance with discounts like Safe Driver, Business Experience, and Paid in Full.
Nice.
So, expert to expert, how would you get a large mustard stain out of white cotton?
Why?
Just planning out our road snacks.
We're only going a mile, Flo.
I can eat a lot of hot dogs in a mile, Bob.
Good point.
Discounts to save your business money. Visit Progressive.com to learn more. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Overturned truck, freeway construction, rubberneckers slowing everything down. I travel for work. News like that used to ruin my whole day until I discovered Citrix GoToMeeting. With GoToMeeting, you can meet from anywhere using your computer, tablet, or smartphone. No expensive travel required. And with HD video, simply turn on your webcam and it's like being in the same room, which means you can stay productive no matter how bad the traffic gets.
Visit GoToMeeting.com and start our free 30-day trial.
Today in Florida Ag News from the Southeast AgNet, we start off with our weekly Commissioner Spotlight, and with that, here's Franco Galasso.
I'm talking with Florida's Commissioner of Agriculture, Adam Putnam. Invasive pests and disease brought in Florida's millions of visitors could cripple our agriculture industry. What's being done to prevent these kinds of threats, Commissioner?
At least one pest or disease is introduced into our